It's time for Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Mark Zuckerberg believes that Facebook can take the place of the church. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to crack up here. This is Wretched Radio. Don't know if you saw the interview with Mark Zuckerberg. He gave a little presentation, I believe, and was quoted as saying that Americans have lost a sense of community, of belonging, joining, being a part of something. Apparently, he has a thesaurus, and he likes to use a lot of descriptors for the same thing. And he believes that Facebook can fill that gap. Because apparently in America, we've got a church-shaped hole in our lives that only Facebook can fill. Demonstrating that Mark Zuckerberg does not understand in the slightest what church is. I fear far too many Christians don't understand that either. I was driving along this morning in my car because, well, that's how you drive. And I was thinking again about church and how it seems to me that there are so many churches that demonstrate they just haven't thought about what they are doing on a Sunday morning. I know. This has been harangued on many times before, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be harangued on again. I was thinking this morning about clothing. I thought if, let's just say, you have not given much thought to the attire that you wear on Sunday morning, or you've been persuaded, hey, come on, God's our Father, He's our Daddy, so when we get together, it's casual, come as you are. And I think that fails to understand what we're doing on a Sunday morning. If you are, let's just say, you are a songwriter, performer, you receive a piece of mail one day from the Grammy Association that says, congratulations, you've been nominated. Be in Los Angeles or wherever they do that shebang, and you might win a little what are those things called? Not a megaphone.
The old
gramophone. Little statue. How would you dress? What would you think? Oh, honey, I got to go shopping. I got to get dressed up for this. Why? You would say because we're doing something special. It's the Grammys. Exactly. You're doing something special, so you get dressed up. What are we doing Sunday morning? You're not a musician. And you receive a letter from the White House. You're invited to a banquet. There'll be all kinds of dignitaries there. You'd scrounge through your closet figuring out what's the best suit, what's the best dress I own. I got to look great. Why? I'm doing something special. Exactly. What are we doing Sunday morning? We are doing something special. Mark Zuckerberg, I fear, is not the only one who does not have an understanding of what church is, who we is, and what we are doing. Permit me to share with you now because there are many themes in the Bible demonstrating this is not an incoherent book of mishmash, slapped together stories that need to be figured out. It's not hard. We see themes in the Bible. We see types. We see shadows. We see great, magnificent concepts woven throughout the Bible in beautiful harmony that can only be explained by remembering the Bible is supernatural. There's no way that 40 different authors throughout the course, this book was written over the course of 1,500 years, give or take. There's no way man could have been this harmonious in putting together radically different genres. And yet the Bible demonstrates it is supernatural when we take a look at some of these themes and patterns without getting allegorical and wonky. For your consideration, let us consider God's habitation, God's dwelling, where He lives. And when we take a look at that theme alone, we will have to respectfully laugh at Mark Zuckerberg's understanding of church, that it's just a place where we go to hang out with one another and feel like we're a part of something. It is far more grand than that. Now, there are other things that we could study concerning the church. There are many more angles to understand when we get together. This is something that is radically special. But we will simply look at this. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And where does God dwell? God dwells in heaven. The earth is his footstool. However, in Exodus chapter 40, we see God dwelling on earth. Where? In a little place called the tabernacle. That would be your Exodus 40, 34, and 35, Rexella. God inhabited the tabernacle. It was a special event. Nevertheless, God would come down in his presence in some form. The Shekinah glory would dwell with his people. That appearance also took place when the tabernacle was no longer necessary to be mobile when they built the temple. 1 Kings 8, 10 through 11. God's glory shows up where? In the temple. The second temple of Jerusalem. To some degree, it would appear that his glory was there. To some degree, it could be argued that the glory had departed. I would be fine with either of those, but this one is not debatable. When did God dwell on earth? In the person of Jesus Christ, John 2:19. Jesus came and tabernacled among his people. But Jesus left. Where does God dwell on earth now? Inside of the believer. 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 17, 2 Corinthians 6:16, Revelation 3:12. God makes himself known by dwelling, inhabiting his people. However, there's another way that God lives on earth, if you will. The collective church of Jesus Christ. Ephesians 2:21 through 22. That God, if you will, is dwelling on earth, not just in the individual, but in the collective body known as the church. When you and I get together, we are doing far more than just singing some songs, hanging out, maybe having some really good food. If you're Lutheran, because let's be honest, Lutherans do the buffet. They do the
hard to argue.
Can't argue. They do it. They just stuff. Not every Lutheran church, but as a rule, I think it's safe to say, when it comes to putting together some sort of buffet, oh man,
we out potluck most churches. Is what you're saying?
Pretty much.
If potlucking were a competition,
it's biblical. I don't know where, but I'm pretty certain it is. What are we doing when we get together? We are the collective body, the one in whom God dwells. Yes, it's individual, but it is also collectively. What do we do when we get together on Sunday morning? We are worshiping God. That is certain. We are learning about God. That is certain. Now, therefore, you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God, Ephesians 2:19, having been built on the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. Remember, he's going to build his church on what? Himself. In whom the whole building, being fitted together, grows into a holy temple in the Lord, in whom you also are being built together for a dwelling place of God in the Spirit. That is what the body is all about. Well, not all about, but that's a part of what we are about. Now, what about the future? God dwells with his people again. A new temple. When heaven and earth meet. You can read all about it in Revelation 14, 17, 15, 5, 6, 8, 16, 1, 17, and chapter 21, 22. There's a theme in the Bible. God's dwelling. where he deigns to make himself, his presence known. And you could say that there are at least 7 of those, possibly 8 demonstrations, the theme running throughout the Bible of God dwelling on earth. The local church is a manifestation of God dwelling on earth when God's people come together. That is what we are doing. That is what church does and represents and shows to the world, a foreshadowing of when God will dwell on earth with his people, and his glory will be known, and we'll be able to endure it because we will no longer be simul justus et peccator, but glorified saints. So with all due respect to Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook is very nice, but it doesn't hold a candle to the church. This is Wretched Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Wretched segment du jour. If you'd like more Wretched, you can listen to the most current stream for free at wretched.tv/listen, or you can become a club member and listen to our entire archive. Wretched, reaching the lost, equipping the saints, and strengthening the local church.